Or just as a principle, like, why should you need to spread it, like gospel and all this yourself? Why shouldn't it just be self-evident to people that they would just come to it on their own, like, again, some outsider?
So actually, there's a lot of like, this is actually crazy. There's a lot of tribes that are in random places of the world that believe in God, first of all, but some of them even talk about Jesus, but they use a different name. And, they don't say Jesus and God, but they have different names. But they have the same principle of like Jesus coming, being fully God and fully man, dying, resurrecting after 3 days, and then going up into heaven and like living a perfect life. It's crazy.
Can
So
you give me an
part
example of that exact?
I can't off the top of my head, but I've heard this message before. I could try and find it
No, no, but
before.
basically what you're saying is you're attributing anybody else who believes in something different. It couldn't be that they could say the same thing about you, like, oh, you're believing in their God and you're just calling it Jesus. Like, it's a
Yeah, I mean,
circular,
they could say the same thing as long as it's like we believe in the same God and the same Jesus. If
but they wouldn't
like,
call it that. They would say, you're calling it that, we're calling it what it really is.
and that would be fine as long as it aligns with the Bible and like what Jesus did and what God did.
It would have differences, though. That's what it is. It's like a reflection of the current social time and the current moral standards. That's what it serves as a placeholder for, at least. Like, the
Right.
laws reflect religious things.
Religious stuff.
Uh, so did Jesus take a risk by getting crucified? Was that within his control?
So this guy is saying like Jesus wasn't taking a risk. Like he knew what he was getting into. And it says that like he understood that that was his assignment essentially, and that even though that was a lot for him, he still decided to like do it, not not pass it to someone else or whatever.
But he could have prevented it from happening if he wanted. He had the power to do that.
Yeah, but because he wanted us to have a relationship with God, like he wanted I mean, he had to die to himself essentially. Is like he was so selfless, like he wasn't being selfish in that way. Even though we would say like, okay, but he's not being selfish, he's just trying to stay alive. Like that's okay. Like yes, but Jesus also understood the weight of what it meant to die and rise again and defeat death. Like he knew how important that was.
But he would have made that happen. So, like you said, he's doing it to himself. So it's almost like a false flag government thing. Like, okay, we're gonna make a tragedy so you can believe. So he's setting up the scenario. He's having himself have that happen to him because everything's within his power. So he's making that happen to make believers.
So no, he's like what would you call it? He's fulfilling the law. So like we talked about it a while back whenever somebody goes to jail and they have to pay bail. Like he was paying that bail for the person to get out of jail and
But
to have
it's
a
all
relationship.
his doing. It's all his within his power. So like when the Romans are doing that, they're still doing what he wants them to do, I guess.
Like he's not stopping them is what you're saying. Like he could stop them, but he's not stopping them.
Or even he's making them do it because everything's all powerful.
So what was happening was like they have free will, so I think they some of them hated him, some of them were just doing their jobs. But um like Jesus did have the power to stop them, but because he loved them, he allowed all of that to happen. So
But
it had
he
nothing to do with him not being capable. Like he was totally capable.
but it's like a God who would allow their own subjects to turn on them at will. So then it could be that if enough people turn on them, then they die out and nobody believes anymore. So that's a possibility too.
Wait, can you say that again?
Like he's allowing his own creations or people to not believe and to hate him and to do all this to him. So by that logic in the future, it could be that nobody will believe in him because they're all like that. They all don't like him because he allows them not to like him,
Well, that's like the free will thing. It's like he gives us the option to choose what we want for our life.
which could lead to nobody believing in him. Then, though, wouldn't that be a little counterproductive?
Well, that hasn't happened yet, and honestly, there's been a lot of revolutions recently. Like there's young people in China from ages like 18 to 24 that are having a huge revolution. A bunch of people are turning Christian. And then people in where is it? France as well. It's pretty interesting.
Have you seen these kind of videos, like somebody like 20 Christians versus one atheist or
I've
something like that?
I've seen some of them.
So it's like the same way when you're talking about the floods and stuff, you should be grateful that you survived
Yeah.
it or something like that.
Yeah. There's just always something to be grateful for.
But even on the point of when they say you need to suffer to reach like your potential, why couldn't he just make everybody then with the potential already achieved? You're in a state naturally. You talk about free will and all that, but like, why not just be in the perfect state already from the beginning? Because he has the power to create that.
Mm, but that's like why we have free will. It's like because he wants us to be able to choose him or choose, you know, to choose him. He wants us to be able to choose him.
But if he's the right answer, why even make it so complicated? Just you're right, and he knows he's right, so just everyone just does it automatically.
I don't know.
And so giving that option almost validates anything else. Then it's you're believing something else because he allows it, so it must be okay with him. So
No, like there was actually I was listening to a sermon on Sunday because I went to church, and the guy was talking about how this Mormon kid came up to his friend who was reading his Bible in Starbucks at a Target. And this man was reading his Bible at the Starbucks in the Target, and these two little Mormon missionaries went up to him, and the younger one was like, "Am I believing the right Jesus?" And the man was like, "Here, let's talk about this." And so like he sat and talked with him and went through like a bunch of the stories of Jesus and who Jesus really is and what he really says. And the boy literally took off his name tag and gave all of his stuff back to the other missionary, like the Mormon missionary, and was like, and he dedicated his life to Jesus, the actual like. Does that make sense? Like, I don't know what my point was there necessarily, but like God God is there. It's just whether or not people want to understand that. And like
so
I know people that are Hindi and stuff, and they're like, "Yeah, I'm Hindi. It's fun." And it's like, "Oh, it's fun." And that's kind of like it. Like it's kind of a tradition. It's almost like we have Christmas, and it's like, "Oh, that's fun." Like almost like a hobby. But when you're a Christian, it's like it's a part of you. It's a lifestyle, and more than just a lifestyle, it's a relationship.
Wouldn't you say the majority, though, of the large number of Christians are like that? They do it kind of casually and they're not really devout or fully.
We would say that's like a lukewarm Christian or someone that like grew up in it and is kind of like just going through the motions.
Wouldn't you say that's the
But
majority of them, though?
I I would say a lot of people that go to church are like that. Yeah. And that's sad, but we are seeing people change. And so I wouldn't say majority necessarily. I think that's just some.
Or like with the prevalence argument of like the objective factual reason why Christianity is so popular is kind of ironic to the crucifixion because at that time, okay, let's say Rome was against it, but over time, empires and governments spread it through their
Mhm.
conquest and massacring natives there, and then oh now the church takes root there after they conquer the land. So the reason why it's so popular wouldn't be related to whether it's valid or true or not. It would be related to the power of those empires and how they spread it.
Well, I think it's like I can't let my view of a perfect God be stained by imperfect people. So it's like, okay, like, yeah, that's terrible that people killed people because they were selfish and wanted that land. But that has nothing to do with my perfect God. That is sinful. They did a sinful thing. They killed people for a stupid reason. That's not my God.
But that would account for the prevalence of why Christianity is so popular directly. In fact, that would probably be why you could even say on a direct personal level, like you probably wouldn't be Christian if that didn't happen because it wouldn't be popular at all because this empire that was spreading it wouldn't have conquered one territory or another.
Hmm. That's an interesting thought.